The ruling class knows damn well that if they can make you choose sides, then when your guy is in, he can do stuff you would never let the other side get away with without screaming from the rooftops, but you'll make excuses when Trump does it.
We have been taught lies. Reality is not at all what we perceive it to be. We cannot survive any longer by hanging on to the falsehoods of the past. Reality must be discerned at all costs if we are to be a part of the future. Truth must prevail in all instances, no matter who it hurts or helps, if we are to continue to live upon this earth. At this point, what we want may no longer matter. It is what we must do to ensure our survival that counts. The old way is in the certain process of destruction, and a new world order is beating down the door. If we do not act in concert with each other and ensure that the future becomes what we need it to be, then we will surely deserve whatever fate awaits us. Human beings are machines, levers which may be grasped and turned, and there is little real difference between automating a society and automating a shoe factory. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. You can no longer pretend innocence. Your denial of the conspiracy will fall on deaf ears. You must accept that you have been cattle, and the ultimate consequence of being cattle, which is slavery. History is replete with whispers of secret societies, accounts of elders or priests who guarded the forbidden knowledge of ancient people. Prominent men, meeting in secret, who directed the course of civilization, are recorded in the writings of all people. The situation in which we find ourselves is due to our own actions or inactions. Because it is our own fault, we are the only ones who can change future events. Education seems to me to be a major part of the solution. The remaining part is the abolition of secrecy. Through ignorance or misplaced trust, we as a people have abdicated our role as the watchdog of our government. If we had done our jobs as citizens, we would never have reached this point. Most of us are completely ignorant as to even the most basic functions of our government. We have truly become a nation of sheep. And sheep are always eventually led to slaughter. The New World Order will be a totalitarian socialist system. We will be slaves shackled to a cashless system of economic control.
For the past 4 years, I've bashed Trump, and a bunch of people have complained about that. Why are you so hard on the... Trump doesn't matter. Biden doesn't matter. None of the puppets actually matter. What matters is the mindset of the people, and that's what I focus on. Now, Trump and people falling for that is a symptom of their mindset, which is why I talked about that and why I talked about that phenomenon. And in particular, I bashed Trump and his followers because a bunch of people who imagine themselves to be pro-freedom and talk as if they believe in freedom jumped on the Trump train. And I was pointing out the whole time, this is not pro-freedom. This is not the solution. You cannot get to freedom by way of bickering over which jackboot to have on your throat. But I think a lot of Trump supporters actually said was, well, these superficial things, you don't really know what's going on. Trump is such a genius that he's engaged in 4D chess. And what they meant by that is he's doing things so clever and behind the scenes that you don't understand them and you don't know what's going on, but really he's, conniving against the deep state to save us all. And it isn't just the QAnon freaks who fell for that cult lunacy. There's a whole spectrum of Trumpites, and most of them, to one degree or another, believe that Trump was some genius and actually cares about freedom and justice and the Constitution and blah, 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 despite the fact that there was never any reason to think he cared about any of that. He didn't even pretend to. He didn't even do a good sales pitch. He didn't even fake it very well. But so many people are guided by wishful thinking that they wanted to imagine that there was this 4D chess going on, that really behind the scenes he was doing clever things to take down the deep state. And no, he wasn't. He never was from the beginning. And I wanted to make this video to explain that yes, there is in fact a 4D chess game going on. And by that I mean there are schemes and plans and deceptions going on that have nothing to do with what you see on the surface, what shows up on the news and the political games going on. But that 4D chess is not a political savior positioning himself to free you all. It's the ruling class doing what the ruling class always does, this time with Trump's help, to deceive you into doing things which have zero chance in accomplishing freedom for you or anybody else, but are designed to waste your attention and your energy and your money and your hopes on something completely freaking pointless. And that was the Trump presidency, a completely freaking pointless giant nothing. Now, there's a bunch of things I've already talked about a million times that I'm not going to harp on too long here. First of all, the left and right take turns stomping on you. Did you really think, did anybody who vote for Trump really think that now Trump's going to be emperor for life? I mean, some of you bozos kind of talk that way. Did any of you think that? Were you actually of the mind that Republicans from now on are going to control the House and the Senate and the White House? So we're done. Or somewhere in the back of your mind was that little thing telling you, well, eventually the left is going to be back into power. They take turns. It goes back and forth. That's how it's been happening for hundreds of years. Did you think that was just going to stop now? So when the Trump supporters point at things, well, he did this, and it's usually some lame thing, like he did the tax breaks, kind of, sort of, for some people, while drastically increasing federal spending and the debt and the deficit to just, massive new highs, which means the tax cuts aren't really anything. And he did the game of mostly being revenue neutral, which means I'm going to not rob you as much and I'm going to rob him a little bit more. So some people are like, well, I'm happy I got robbed less. Well, whoop-de-doo for you. I'm glad you got robbed less, but somebody else got robbed more. And in the end, the left went back in. Now they have the House and the Senate and the White House. Good job. And Trump put them there. There is a 4D chess game going on, and Trump supporters have no idea what it is, not the foggiest clue. And I have a suspicion that people who talk about 4D chess don't even know how to play 2D chess because they miss the things staring them right in the face. Anybody who's paying attention could look at Trump's appointments. And he appointed the same warmongers and the same bankers to all the same positions that matter. He increased the bombing and droning, Afghanistan, Yemen, all over the place. And they say, well, he didn't start any new wars. That's your measure of he's pro-freedom and anti-war? That he's only overseeing the murder of innocent people in areas where we were already having the murder of innocent people? Though that's okay. As long as you're only committing terrorism and war crimes in the same general area as you were before, well, that counts as being pro-freedom, right? No, it freaking doesn't. And now look at his pardons. He pardoned literally 4 war criminals. I think they all worked for Blackwater, who murdered a bunch of civilians in Iraq, got convicted, and Trump just let them go. That's the anti-war Trump. And they fish for things that, well, he did this, this lame list of things. He was the president of the United States. Now, the president can't unilaterally do whatever the hell he wants, contrary to what a lot of clueless people tend to think. But there's a lot he could have done. He could have pardoned a whole bunch, a lot of people who are in prison for victimless crimes. And he didn't. He pardoned a bunch of his corrupt buddies. And that's it. He is the frickin' swamp. And it wasn't just the last few days. The whole frickin' 4 years, he could have been pardoning people all over the place. He could have pardoned anybody ever convicted by, IRS or ATF. Of course, the DOJ is the one that prosecutes them. But anyone for tax crimes or federal firearms violations, which are all unconstitutional. Instead, Trump single-handedly made several 100,000 Americans into felons with his stupid unilateral bump stock ban that he didn't even get Congress on board. He just told the lawyers, change the definition of machine gun to include the piece of plastic that works as a bump stock ban. Without even the gun, just the piece of plastic now counts as a machine gun, thanks to Trump telling the lawyers to do that. So there's all the things he did, there's all the things he could have done. And in the meantime, there's all the things that the Trump supporters wanted to believe that Trump stood for, with no freaking evidence. They wanted to believe he supports the Constitution when he openly demolishes it every chance he gets. First Amendment, he believes in deporting or caging people for burning their own flag. Second Amendment, his stupid bump stock ban, doesn't give a crap about that. Fourth and fifth and sixth and ninth and 10th, like all the federal politicians, the ninth and 10th, he wants the federal government doing all sorts of things that they have no constitutional power to do to begin with. And the fourth and fifth and sixth, he just openly is authoritarian and talks about, when it comes to due process, I believe in take the guns first and go through due process second. He said that in front of cameras. The Trumpites were like, 4D chess? Yeah, 4D chess played against you. Because the ruling class, if you want to call it the deep state or anything else, the ruling class knows damn well that if they can make you choose sides, then when your guy is in, he can do stuff you would never let the other side get away with without screaming from the rooftops, but you'll make excuses when Trump does it. Just like the political left will make excuses when Obama is a warmonger, or Biden, because he's going to be a warmonger too. They're all freaking warmongers. The game that's going on, the 4D chess, has nothing to do with using politics to achieve freedom. It has to do with using politics to waste your energy so that you never achieve freedom. And the people who jumped on the Trump bandwagon did exactly nothing to achieve freedom. Nothing at all. In fact, the end result of getting the Orange Führer puppet on the throne was now you have Biden puppet on the throne, and the Democrats now control the House, and for all intents and purposes, the Senate, it's 50-50, and the tiebreaker is the vice president, which is now going to be that fascist lunatic Kamala Harris.
The method they use is that of the Hegelian dialectic. Thesis played against antithesis leads to a synthesis. In other words, for Hegel, for history to make progress, you have to have conflict. And when you look at the key people in the order, you will find that they generate conflict. So Bush and Harriman politically are conflicting. Coffin and Buckley, although part of the same order, are in public conflicting with one another because conflict leads to the new synthesis.
Basically, Trump was professional wrestling. They knew people didn't care about politics much anymore because it was bland and boring. They brought in an obnoxious, narcissistic, mentally unstable, dimwit puppet, but he was still absolutely their puppet, as you can see in the appointments. And when people still say, but look how much the media hated him, when you watch professional wrestling, do you think they actually hate each other? When they say mean things about each other in the ring right before they fight, are you not aware that they put on the show so that people go, ooh, ooh, rah, rah, rah for this guy, boo for your guy? How the hell could you fall for that, even after 4 years of him doing all the things to make this authoritarian garbage? Even the COVID thing. He pretended to be, well, I'm not so sure. And then he declares a national emergency. He tells people it's patriotic to wear a mask. It's his administration that has Fauci out there and all the other doofuses doing their idiotic fear-mongering. He sort of half pretends to be the opposition because he is controlled opposition. There is your stinking 4D chess. You supported somebody who pretended to be against the deep state when he's just their latest puppet, and he demonstrated that in everything he did, from COVID, from the wars, from the banking, from the socialist handouts. This will never be a socialist country. Now make sure that my name is on all the government handouts that were piling out the door by the billions and trillions to make up for all the destruction to the economy that government did that we then blamed on COVID. And people are like, yeah, well, and I watched Trumpites say, well, that's just him giving our money back. Okay, so when Obama sends out checks, that's socialism and that's redistribution. But when our guy does it, that's 4D chess played against you. You fell for it, you stinking lost. You've been completely played. You fell for the game. You became bootlickers for somebody stomping on you and robbing you and controlling you. Somebody who never gave a crap about you, but you were tricked by the 4D chess into cheering for one puppet or the other. You are exactly the same as the people who cheered for Obama. In fact, I have to say it, a lot of Trump supporters I've seen are far more delusional and willfully ignorant and intentionally dense and impervious to evidence than I ever saw Obama supporters. As delusional as they were, as clueless as they were, as much as they looked the other way when Obama was a warmongering psycho, I never saw them reach the levels of delusion and dementia that I've seen some Trump supporters reach. And it's the same thing either way. They play two puppets. They take turns stomping on you, and that particular part of the puppet show is over. I, for one, have been writing about this stuff for a quarter of a century now. And 15 years ago, I wrote a book called How to Be a Successful Tyrant. And it explains exactly this, the back and forth, the playing the game, the putting on a puppet show, the making people fall for it, the making people get hope that this guy is going to be different. And he's never going to be different. If he was going to be different, he'd never get anywhere near the White House. And the number of weird theories of he's going to end the Federal Reserve because over here he said something. Did you see what he said? He basically just whined that the Federal Reserve doesn't give him enough power and was doing things he didn't like. He wasn't complaining about the entire fiat currency fractional banking fraud. He lives off of that stuff. He's an economic crook just like the rest of them, and you fell for it. My question for you is, did you learn your fucking lesson yet? You had 4 years of that demented dumbass. What did he accomplish? Well, taxes were a little bit lower for some people. Guess what? They're going to go back up. He got us out of the Paris Climate Accords or whatever they're called. Guess what? We're back in it. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything that mattered. He continued the warmongering. He upped the droning and bombing. He continued all of the authoritarian garbage. He put on a show to distract you. So here's my question for you. If you're feeling all disenfranchised because your savior is out, or because you actually figured out that he didn't give a crap about you and didn't do any good, didn't accomplish anything of any significance, if you're feeling disenfranchised by that whole fiasco, whether you think you were robbed of the election or you're just disappointed that he didn't actually do anything, all the people he could have pardoned and didn't, if you're feeling disenfranchised, I have a very simple question for you. Are you ready to give up on the political game? Or do you want to try that again in 4 more years? See if you can get some other crook to fall for. Someone else to believe in who will absolutely betray you and ignore you and stomp on you and treat you like crap. Or are you ready to actually give up on this game that is designed to do to you exactly what it just did to you with Trump's help? Stomp on you, tear you down, rob you, demolish you, wear you out, and leave you no better off than you were 4 years ago. And still stampeding in the direction of authoritarianism. Are you ready to give up that game? And near the end, I saw a bunch of Trump supporters saying, hopefully he'll declare martial law. The 4D chess tricked you into cheering for martial law. How long were you bitching about the possibility that, watch out for Obama, he's going to declare martial law. He's going to take our guns. Guess who came closest to declaring martial law? Guess who talked about taking guns first, going through due process second? And to give the context for that, that was anybody government deems a possible threat or unstable, we should be able to take their guns first and then let them see if they can get them back. That's what Trump was talking about. That was the context. And you cheered for the guy who did that. And you cheered for the guy who was actually asking about, can we do martial law? Can we use the military? And you were like, yeah, rah, rah, rah. If you've ever wondered why there were big cheering throngs cheering on Mao and Stalin and Hitler and Pol Pot and right down the line, look in the frickin' mirror. Because the ruling class knows how to play 4D chess, and you don't. If you voted for Trump, you don't understand the game. You just played yourself. So my question is, are you done playing? Are you done making a fool of yourself? Are you done throwing your hopes and dreams into a system designed to do this to you? And a bunch of us told you ahead of time this is exactly what was going to happen? No, Trump's going to be different, you'll see. We didn't see because we were right. Because some of us know how the game works. I wrote a book about it 15 stinking years ago, and it described exactly this. And you fell for it.
Good night, folks. God bless each and every single one of you. Good night, Pooh, my darling sweetheart. Good night, Allison. You vibrant little bundle of joy. You know, this house is haunted. I can hear you girls screaming and playing all the time. Annie, you're the love of my life. You always will be the love of my life. And I miss you. I miss you all terribly, terribly much.